Pregnant black, Maid slept on the floor. The millionaire saw it. And then what happened? The mansion breathed with silence that afternoon. Heavy golden curtains dulled the light, and the clock's steady ticking was the only reminder of time passing. Everything in the house spoke of wealth. Polished mahogany tables, leather chairs, portraits, and gilded frames. Yet on the expensive rug in the center of the sitting room lay a sight that didn't belong in such luxury. Amara the maid lay collapsed on the floor. Her black and white uniform clung to her body, its fabric creased and damp from sweat. She was heavily pregnant, her stomach rising like a strained mountain beneath the apron. Her shoes were still on, her hair undone, one arm stretched weakly across the carpet, as if she had tried to rise but couldn't. For weeks she had pushed herself to work through the exhaustion, hiding the growing toll of her body. But now, finally, she had broken. When Ethan, the millionaire, walked in, his polished shoes halted mid-step. He had returned earlier than expected, intent on reviewing paperwork, but what he saw pulled the breath from his chest. The woman he had barely noticed these last weeks, always quiet, efficient, moving like a shadow, was lying helpless at his feet. For a long moment he didn't move. His mind fought against the image, telling him she was only resting, that perhaps she had simply chosen a poor spot. But her limp posture, the shallow rhythm of her breathing, and the pore in her face told another story. This was not rest. This was collapse. "Amara," he whispered, kneeling beside her. His hand hovered above her belly, unsure whether to touch. Beneath the stretched fabric, the faintest ripple passed, a kick, a reminder that another life rested inside her. The realization struck him harder than he expected. This wasn't just a maid fainting on his floor. This was a mother carrying a child, yet pushed to such limits that her body had surrendered. Shame flushed his face. He had prided himself on being a man who noticed details in business, who never let anything slip past him. But here in his own house, someone under his care had been unraveling, and he had been blind. Amara stirred faintly, her lips parting in a soft groan. Her eyelids fluttered, but did not fully open. She whispered something he couldn't catch, then stilled again. Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to shake her awake, to demand why she hadn't said anything, why she had driven herself to this breaking point. But he already knew the answer. Because she was the maid, invisible, replaceable, easily dismissed. She worked in silence, never complaining, because the world rarely gave women like her permission to be fragile. He remembered once hearing a guest joke. "She's as strong as a horse, that one." Everyone had laughed. He hadn't, but he also hadn't stopped it. Now staring at her limp body, the guilt pressed like a stone on his chest. He realized how little he knew of her life. Did she have family? Who looked after her when she left these walls? Was there a husband, a father to this child? Or was she carrying all this weight alone? The clock ticked louder. His hand finally settled gently on her stomach, steadying himself as much as he was steadying her. The unborn child shifted beneath his palm. For a man who had built empires out of cold calculations, the sensation was disarming. Life raw and unguarded, stirred beneath his hand, his throat tightened. He whispered again, more firmly this time. "Amara, can you hear me?" Her lips trembled. "I'm sorry." The words hit him like a blow. Sorry for collapsing, for being human, for daring to break in a house where perfection was demanded, even from the unseen. He felt something crack inside him, anger rising not at her, but at the system he had allowed to fester under his roof, where a pregnant woman believed she owed apology for fainting. "No," he said sharply, surprising even himself. His voice softened. "Don't be sorry. Just hold on." For the first time, Ethan felt the walls of his mansion shift. The opulence seemed hollow, the paintings and polished silver mocking him. What good was wealth if it ignored suffering lying on the very floor it owned? He glanced toward the door where silence still reigned. No staff had noticed. No one had come running. She had fallen, and the world had kept moving as though nothing happened. That realization cut deep. Leaning closer, he brushed a strand of hair from her damp forehead. "You won't be invisible anymore," he murmured. He wasn't sure if he was promising her or himself. Ethan stayed crouched beside Amara, his pulse racing faster than the ticking clock above them. Her breathing, shallow only moments ago, suddenly changed. Sharp, ragged, broken by cries she tried to hold back. His hand still rested against her belly when a sudden tightening rippled beneath his palm. She gasped, clutching his sleeve with desperate strength. It's the baby," she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Ethan froze, the weight of her words striking him with the force of thunder. Not fainting, not exhaustion alone. She was in labor, and it was happening here on his mansion floor. His first instinct was panic. He had no idea what to do. He was a man who negotiated mergers, not contractions. But when Amara cried out again, the sound slicing through the golden silence of the room, his panic hardened into action. "Stay with me," he urged, pressing her hand tight in his. "You're not alone. I promise you're not alone." He shouted for the staff, his voice echoing through the hallways. Moments later, footsteps thundered toward them. "Call an ambulance," he barked. "Now, and bring blankets." The mansion spun into chaos while others ran for help. Ethan stayed rooted to her side. He lifted her carefully into his arms, something no one had ever expected the millionaire to do. Her head pressed against his chest, her breath sharp and unsteady. He carried her out of the sitting room, through the wide halls, down the steps, refusing to let anyone else bear her weight. By the time the paramedics arrived, Amara was drenched in sweat, her cries breaking into sobs. Ethan climbed into the ambulance beside her, ignoring the stairs. His hand never left hers as the sirens wailed and the city blurred by. In the hospital, fluorescent lights replaced chandeliers and sterile walls replaced gilded frames. Amara was rushed into a delivery room. Ethan followed as far as they would allow, his chest tight with helplessness. He paced the corridor, every shout and cry from behind the doors, clawing at his nerves. Time stretched unbearably, every second filled with the question. Would she survive this? Would the child? Finally, the doors burst open. A nurse stepped out, her face tired, but glowing with a small smile. "Congratulations," she said softly. "It's a girl." The words struck Ethan harder than any deal he had ever closed. Relief nearly buckled his knees. He was ushered inside where Amara lay pale and exhausted, her eyes heavy but alive. In her arms, swaddled tightly, was the tiniest bundle, a soft cry escaping delicate lips. Ethan stepped closer, his throat burning. The sight was overwhelming. Amara, fragile yet unbroken, cradling a new life she had nearly lost. The child's tiny hand twitched free, reaching instinctively toward the air. Ethan extended a finger without thinking, and the hand closed around him, impossibly small, yet impossibly strong. Amara's lips trembled. "I don't know how I'll do this," she whispered. Her voice carried the weight of years of silence, of loneliness, of fear, of the future. Ethan sank into the chair beside her bed, his voice unsteady but resolute. "You won't do it alone," he said. "From this moment on, you have my word. I will take care of both of you. Whatever you need, health care, a home, security, education, I'll make sure you never feel invisible again. Your child will grow up knowing they are wanted, cherished, and safe. And you'll never collapse from carrying too much by yourself again." Tears slipped down Amara's cheeks. She turned her eyes toward him, searching for doubt, but found none. The millionaire who once seemed untouchable, distant behind his fortune, now sat before her, transformed by the simple truth of human suffering and human connection. The baby let out a soft sigh, nestling deeper against her chest. Ethan leaned closer, his hand resting lightly on Amara's arm, his gaze locked on the child's face. "She's perfect," he whispered, his voice breaking. In that sterile hospital room among machines and white walls, something deeper than wealth shifted. For Ethan, this wasn't an obligation. It was redemption, a vow stronger than any contract he had ever signed. And for Amara, lying exhausted yet alive, the miracle wasn't only that her baby had been born. It was that for the first time someone had truly seen her not as just a maid, but as a mother, as a woman, as someone worthy of care. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.